Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us. Team Mosso at the 1916 Company is in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Reach out to us directly. Email tmosso at the 1916company.com for pricing. Back in the mid-1990s, Patek Philippe was getting back in touch with its heritage. Following the 150th anniversary year of 1989, the officer's style case had become a regular feature in the lineup. And the watch we have here, featuring post-1995 hallmarks in white gold, is the Patek Philippe 5015G Moonphase. The watch is a handsome throwback to the way Patek Philippe was building its officer-cased watches in the mid-1990s. Beautifully sized and universally wearable at 35 millimeters in diameter. It's 9.7 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, measures a wonderfully compact 41.4 millimeters with a 19 millimeter spacing between the lugs. So I'll throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters circumference. The strap here is brand new, has not been broken in, and is very stiff. So I'm pulling it super tight so you can see the watch seated securely on my wrist. Just keep in mind, I'm compressing my wrist here to make the watch look broader and my wrist smaller. Now, in terms of thickness, it simply isn't. At under 10 millimeters, it will slide under a dress cuff. When you look down the barrel, you can see I have an immense amount of room between the end of the lug and the edge of my wrist, and even from over the top, which exaggerates the width of the watch, you can see the lugs are nowhere near the edge. So this watch is suitable for a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference, a lady's size, perfectly acceptable. A men's size, classically compact. This is a watch that will wear smaller as the strap breaks in and becomes more flexible. That said, one of the reasons it's so stiff is because it is of very high quality. Large rectangular scale alligator leather in a matte finish. It's black with a monotone stitch and a sheer cut side showing you the thick layers of leather that have been used to make it. Calfskin on the bottom. You could see no crimping, no gouging, a brand new Patek Philippe factory strap. We don't have the pull-tab spring bars here because of the way it's constructed. Like a true officer's watch of the early 20th century, it has lugs that are welded on and a strap that is fixed with screws and bars. Rolling around to the buckle, you can see it is a single fold deployant clasp in white gold, and that it has a little spring system internally. It's a variation on the friction fit style of clasp, so it snaps shut. Then we have the Calatrava Cross externally, which is the symbol of the Patek Philippe manufacturer. In fact, you could see on the reverse that it is on the micro rotor, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. The way the lugs are built indicates this is a very artisanally crafted case. So a little bit of a note about the officer style watch. In the early 20th century, as World War I raged on, it was increasingly necessary to have a watch that could be accessed without resort to pockets or need for additional attention. In other words, when your hands are full and you're wearing combat uniform, sometimes it just makes more sense to have a watch on your wrist. And thus, the pocket watch began to die as many soldiers, not just officers, but perhaps most famously officers, began to convert pocket watches with welded-on lugs, straps fixed by screws and bars, and often many of the retained features of the original pocket watch, such as beaded bezels or onion-style crowns or hinged hunter-style casebacks. And in the late 80s, Patek began to pay tribute to that genre of converted watches because in period, back in the teens and 20s, a lot of Patek Philippe pocket watches historically would have been converted to that officer's type style. And so this watch is an homage to that, as well as a modern statement of luxury. The way the lug was created separately and inserted into the case is a very time-consuming type of case manufacture called welded lug. Now, historically, the officers' watches would have been quite crude, but this, being from Patek, is artisanal. So the lug and the case are made separately. The lug is inserted into a slot in the case. They're welded together, and then the joint is filed to remove excess welded material and create that sharp break or seam between lug and case. That takes a lot of skill and a lot of time to achieve. You could see that we do have an onion-style crown that is unbranded, as historically in the 1880s, 90s, and 1910s that produced the watches to be converted, those watches would have had unsigned crowns. We have a little flange, which defines the midcase and the separation to the bezel, and then a lovely beaded profile that frames a truly white lacquered dial. Sometimes we talk about silver white, metallic galvanized color. This is actual lacquered white. This is the same movement that would go on to see duty in, among others, the 5085, the 3712, the 5712, the Nautilus Moonphase. But here we have it in a more classical arrangement. We have poire-style hands, so pear-style hands that are blackened gold. We also have feuille-style hands for the combination of small seconds, power reserve indicator. Then we have a moon and age of the moon right there. You can see it's double bladed. The power reserve is 48 hours. You can, if you wish, wind it manually to see the power reserve indicator move in real time, but it's also an automatic winding movement. We have lovely pre-Art Deco numerals used because, of course, World War I would have come long before the Exposition des Arts Décoratifs in France in 1925. One of the great features about these officer-style cases, and you can see what I meant when I was talking about post-1995 hallmarks. There's the St. Bernard's head. These officer-style cases often retained the hunter caseback of the underlying pocket watch, and when Patek created these purpose-built officer's cases, it kept the hinged caseback, so you still get all the precious metal and the weight and refinement that comes with it, but you also get a display caseback. Now you can see this is caliber 240 with power reserve, small second, and Moonphase. There's a 22 karat micro rotor that winds the 48-hour power reserve. It beats at 3 hertz. It has Patek's signature shock resistant and highly precise Gyromax style free sprung balance. You can see it pivots on 29 jewels, and we are back to the era, wistfully remembered, of the Geneva hallmark. Now, one of the things that makes this watch a product of its period, and I'll show you the inside of the case right there, you can see this was before Patek was making its most complicated cases. This was before it made the cases for its minute repeaters and its officers' watches, because you can see a guild key in there, and that is the key of the Casemakers Guild in 28. Looks like it says 28. 28 would have been the guild number of whoever made this case. Again, the movement, a automatic with micro rotor, features the Geneva hallmark, but what's ironic is while it is finely finished and beautifully detailed, if you get close, you can see little things that are very much at variance with the way Patek finishes movements today. The bevels are handsome, but you can also see the milling marks of the tools if you look closely. And features like the locating pegs, let me try to get those pegs, see those 3 pegs on the balance cock? On a modern-day Patek 240, those would be mirror finished on their tops, whereas here they've just been smoothed over. The idea back in the 90s was that finishing was a mark of integrity, not necessarily an invitation to inspect your watch with a microscope, which people do today. So the finishing's beautiful. The bevels, the stripes, the engine turning, the black polished screws, and even the internal beveling for the jewel sinks. Just remember, this was a different time, and companies, watchmakers, and clients had a different expectation for finish. The watch is 30 meters water resistant, so don't take it swimming, but with a vintage dress watch, you probably already knew that. If you love this watch, and they are few and far between, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.